The situation with Google right now is completely unhinged, and the wildest part is they're acting like nobody's noticing the massive war they just started with the entire open source community. Starting in September 2026, Google is enforcing this new mandate called Android Developer Verification. And what that actually means, in plain English, is that they want every single app developer to hand over their legal name, their address, and a physical government ID, just for the privilege of being allowed to exist on Android devices. And here's the truly insane part. They're demanding this even from developers who distribute their apps entirely outside the Google Play Store, independent platforms like F-Droid. Their own personal websites, doesn't matter. Google wants your passport either way. Like, actually, picture this for a second. You volunteer your free time, your own unpaid hours, to build a privacy-focused messaging app for activists or journalists. People whose safety literally depends on staying anonymous. And suddenly, the mega corporation that owns the operating system is holding you hostage. Dox yourself to us, they say, or watch your app get permanently blocked from being installed on normal phones. That's the choice. Surrender your identity or get erased. This is the ultimate mask-off moment for a company that literally runs ad campaigns, telling you that your data is yours. Google loves pitching things like the Privacy Sandbox, telling us to just trust them because they'll protect our privacy. But think about what that actually is. That's Google promising to protect you from Google, and you simply don't get to be both the arsonist and the fire department at the same time. You don't get to start the fires and then show up with the hose and call yourself a hero. And that is exactly why this massive coalition called Keep Android Open just formed. Brave has joined forces with the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the Tor Project, and over 70 other organizations. Together, they published an open letter, calling the bluff out loud, officially demanding that Google back down from this insane push toward a total surveillance economy. Brave declaring open war on Google over this developer ID thing, honestly, that's just somebody finally saying the obvious out loud, because everyone paying attention already knows this was never really about protecting users from malware. That's the cover story. What it's actually about is Google cementing absolute total control over a platform that was originally promised to be open and free for everyone. But you can't really understand why Brave is going this hard, this aggressively, without first understanding something uncomfortable. Chrome itself isn't even a real browser anymore. It's a costume, it's a disguise. Think about it honestly. You probably never actually woke up one morning and made an active, informed decision to download Google Chrome. That's not how it got onto your machine. It came pre-installed on your Android phone. It was the mandatory default on every single work laptop anyone ever handed you. Your high school forced you to use it on their Chromebooks. Mine did too, by the way. And now, it just quietly operates as the entire internet for over 1 billion people who never once picked it out of a lineup. Chrome is not a tool designed to browse the web. That's the illusion. What it actually is a highly sophisticated data vacuum attached to a search bar that just so happens to also render web pages on the side. And the war Brave is waging is really about them pointing directly at the exact thing everyone is currently using and saying out loud, hey, this thing is watching every single move you make. Now, the usual tech bro response to all this is, well, just switch browsers, problem solved. And that advice is an absolute joke because the entire board is rigged from the very start. Google pays out billions of dollars every single year purely to guarantee they stay the default search engine everywhere. They even pay Apple, their supposed biggest rival on the planet, astronomical sums of money just to remain the default on iPhones. The whole game is bought and paid for before you even sit down at the table. But this is actually where the story gets good. Precisely because it's a fixed game, because the deck is that stacked. The fact that a much smaller player like Brave is landing real hits, forming coalitions that genuinely make Google sweat, means the fix itself is finally starting to crack. This is the ultimate little guy versus the rigged systems scenario. And for the first time in a very long time, it actually feels like the little guy is winning. Not by outspending them, but simply by refusing to play by Google's toxic, honestly ridiculous rules. Here's the thing you have to really internalize. Google is not scared of Brave because Brave is a technically better browser. That's not the fear. The truth is, they are terrified because Brave fundamentally threatens their entire business model. Google's massive $300 billion corporate body only feeds, only breeds, only survives if you are being actively tracked at all times. They don't hate privacy tools like Brave because they're annoying to deal with on a technical level. They hate them because a browser that automatically blocks third-party trackers, blocks fingerprinting, blocks cross-site scripts, that's an existential insult. Brave is living, breathing, walking proof that you never actually needed to be spied on to use the internet efficiently in the first place. And that's the real reason Google fights so hard against alternative app stores, the real reason they're trying to force developers to register their government IDs. Because if you can just easily sidestep their walled garden, they lose their grip on the data pipeline entirely. Google isn't mad that Brave has cool features. Google is mad that Brave proves the surveillance was completely unnecessary this whole time. When Brave does things like strip tracking query parameters straight out of your URLs or route requests locally to avoid touching Google's servers at all, it quietly shows everyday users something dangerous, that the modern internet doesn't have to be this creepy. And that single realization is wildly threatening to a company whose entire livelihood is selling your behavioral profile to the highest bidder. And this isn't some conspiracy theory either. Things like the antitrust findings and the total public failure of Google's privacy sandbox, those aren't random headlines you can wave away. They're documented, court-confirmed realities. They prove that Chrome's only real purpose is to serve Google's advertising business. Full stop. So when Brave launches campaigns to keep Android open and pushes back against these developer ID mandates, they're directly attacking the core philosophy that Google depends on to make all of its money. And they're doing it right out in the open, where everyone can watch the cracks form in the monopoly in real time. And the craziest part about all of this in 2026, it's not even about serving you targeted ads anymore. That's old news, because now you are literal AI training food. This is the newest front in the entire war because Google's forced AI integrations have completely backfired. It's no longer enough that you're the product being sold to advertisers. Now, every single thing you click, every search you type, every word you enter is being vacuumed straight up to feed Gemini. So a privacy browser like Brave declaring war and blocking these trackers is really about one thing. You refusing to be the raw material for the AI slop that Google is desperately shoving down everyone's throats. Stop and really sit with the absurdity of your position here. At this exact point in time, you are somehow the paying customer, the product being sold, and the free training data, all at the same time, all three at once. It's a completely dystopian setup where your every digital footprint gets scraped, processed, and repackaged into an artificial intelligence that you never once asked for. And when independent developers on open source platforms try to build genuine alternatives to this whole ecosystem, Google's answer is to slam the door shut with these mandatory ID verification roadblocks, making absolutely sure nobody can easily escape the harvest. They're basically telling independent creators, if you want to build anything at all for the modern mobile world, you first have to feed your personal identity and your users' data directly into the central machine. No exceptions. That is exactly why the Keep Android Open movement is picking up so much momentum right now. People are sick and tired of being treated as nothing more than digital fodder for a tech giant's latest desperate pivot into generative AI. Because here's the ugly truth. To a monopoly the size of Google, you are not a user. You are not a customer. You are livestock. You are the thing being farmed. And to be totally honest with you, this entire conflict, from the developer ID mandates all the way to the forced AI integrations, is not some dry technical disagreement between two rival software companies. It's not that at all. It is a fundamental battle over one single question: whether you are allowed to exist as an independent person online. or whether your only purpose is to be a resource, perpetually farmed endlessly for advertising and AI training data. But here's the part that actually gives me hope. Google got so unbelievably comfortable owning your data, tracking your habits, forcing their defaults down onto every device you touch, that at some point they just completely stopped pretending otherwise. They got arrogant enough to walk up and demand physical passports and government IDs from independent, unpaid volunteer developers whose only crime was wanting to share open source code with the world. And that sheer naked arrogance, that is exactly the thing that's finally causing them to lose their grip, because people are genuinely waking up now. Massive coalitions like the Keep Android Open campaign are forming across the entire globe, and the simple act of choosing a different browser or downloading an app from an independent third-party store is quietly turning into a real act of rebellion. When the single biggest tech giant on the planet tries to lock down the entire ecosystem, and a scrappy, underfunded coalition still manages to rally millions of people to push back against it, that proves the game isn't over yet. The fix might be in, but the foundation is cracking. And honestly, it is beautiful to watch. So yeah, that's it for this one. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. In peace.